Hey, howdy, hey, y'all. Coffee Lux here, and welcome to a studio vlog. This past week, I have been working on trying to get my special edition kitchen witches done for Yule time. Now, I have a market coming up in about a week. Yeah, exactly 1 week from the day I'm recording this right now. So I have been really crunching to get these gals done, and I am honestly really happy with what I managed to do this past week. This special doll that I have been working on is a collaboration between me and my friend Katie, who runs the embroidery shop My Stitch Witch. And we came up with this idea a few months ago and decided we wanted to do something special for the holiday season, and we're actually going to be doing a market together in 2 weeks. My second market of December will be with Katie, and we're going to be sharing a table, and it's going to be really fun. I'm really looking forward to it. But she did these amazing little holly boughs on my skirts, and I absolutely adore them. They are just the cutest thing, and I really can't wait to show you what these finished dolls look like. So if you hang out to the end of the video, you'll get to see the reveal. And throughout this entire studio vlog, we're going to be going through my process for making these dolls from pretty much start to finish. Although I will say all of my resin work, the casting, the dye painting, all of the finishing touches on that I have done the week prior. So those pieces are already finished, but you will get to see them assembled on the final doll. A lot of what you'll be seeing me do early on in this video is transferring all of my patterns to fabric and cutting them out. I self-drafted all of my patterns for these dolls. It's not too much different than drafting patterns for sewing clothes for yourself, except it's just on a much smaller scale and therefore a lot easier. A lot of the pieces are really just rectangles. You know, the skirts are made in the same way that you would make a rectangle skirt with pleats. The aprons are made in the same manner, you know, just a rectangle, hemmed and pleated. And the shirts are essentially going to be a tube. They're just a rectangle that you cut out, you fold over the hem, you sew the hem, and then fold it over again and sew until it's a tube. And then fold it right side out and you've got a shirt. You'll notice that I often use a pen when I'm transferring my patterns to fabric. This really isn't the best thing that you can do. There's lots of different options than using a pen. I just use it because I can see it the best, and some of my colored chalks don't show up as well on some of these lighter fabrics. So for me, it's just easier. And you know, these little clothes are not going to be going in the washing machine. It really doesn't matter. And I usually cut within the ink line, so it's not even going to be on the final product anyway. For the waistbands and boots, I like to use the same color of felt for both of those pieces. And so as you can see, I'm using Taylor's chalk here, and this works really well on felt actually. This is the better option than using pen, and it rubs off really easy. 10/10 recommend these triangular Taylor's chalks. I like to do all of my clothing in batches because it just simplifies the process. If I can make 6 of the same articles of clothing at the same time, it's a lot easier and my process goes a lot smoother than if I have to make them one by one. So typically I do dolls in batches. These boots are one of my favorite things that I make, and they are a little bit challenging to get patterned out in a way where I don't waste a lot of the felt. I did design these specifically so that they could lock into each other, and I really like that about these. It makes them easier to cut out, it makes them easier to put down, and they're just really, really heckin' cute. I usually leave the bottoms of the boots flat for cutting out, just because it's easier just to a straight line all the way across. And then when it comes time to make more shape in them, I find it easier to just fold the boot over and then cut the heel and the arch out that way. I'll also fine tune if any of the bits, I didn't cut correctly. I can go back and make sure that everything's even so that when the boot is folded over and ready to sew, everything matches up and looks good. And all of these little snippets of felt that I'm piling up over there will actually be used to stuff the boots later so that they're nice and thick and hold their shape. So I really try my best to make sure that I'm never wasting any material. If there's a way that I can reuse it for something else, I'm always going to opt to do that. I landed on this nice cherry red color for the hats for these dolls. I think it's going to harmonize really well with the dark forest green for the waistband and the boots and the cherry red of the skirt. I think it's going to be really, really cute. They look like little pepperonis. And here we have the absolutely gorgeous skirt fabric. It's a really soft chenille, and it looks so good with the embroidery on it. I am absolutely obsessed with this. Katie did such an amazing job. I really can't wait for people to see these dolls. I really think that they turned out wonderful. One thing that I really wanted to adhere to with these dolls is to give them a lot of texture and more of a luxurious feel than some of my other dolls, just because, it's the holidays. We can be decadent. So this chenille is really soft and has a satiny sheen to it, which is really pleasing. And then the fabric that I picked for the shirts is actually a cream colored suede, and so it's really soft and lush and lovely to the touch. And another bit of fabric that you'll see later in the video is the kerchief, and that is almost like a deep gold satin, and it's a little thicker than I probably would have used traditionally with these dolls, but the fact of the matter is I do my best to use scrap fabric only to make these dolls, and so I didn't want to have to go out and buy anything new. So all of these fabrics that I'm using were already in my stash from scrap bins at fabric stores and thrift stores. This pleating technique that I came up with for the skirts really suits them well. It's pretty much the same as you would do for making a skirt for yourself. It's just on a smaller scale, and I pleat them to match the width of the waistband. So I start with a larger rectangle of fabric and then pleat it down until it fits that length, and then pin it all together with the apron sandwich between, and then those will be ready for sewing. And I have to say, these sewing clips are some of the best things I have ever purchased in my life. 1010 would purchase them again. And also these hem clips. My sister got these for me for Christmas one year, and I absolutely adore them. I use them for a lot of things, and actually pinning down these pleats was one of the most genius ways I've ever used these hem clips. They are absolutely perfect for this particular project. You just sandwich over, pin it down, and it holds those pleats in place, and you don't have to worry about them moving or wiggling around when you're sewing them. And here I am setting up my machine, getting my new thread put in. Everybody's sewing machines are so different. Oh my goodness. I've been wanting a new sewing machine for years. This is the first sewing machine that I learned how to machine sew on, and it's been good. It's been good to me. It has been through many, many years of cosplay crafting shenanigans, you know, sewing through upholstery fabrics to make cosplays, and I really abused it. I abused it a lot, and I'm really shocked that it still goes as hard as it does. It's definitely a good machine, but I would love something newer. I like the digital machines a whole lot, especially ones with some embroidery capability. I would really love to get one of those eventually, so we'll see. Maybe sometime in the future. I'll probably just hold on to this guy until he conks out, though, if I'm being perfectly honest. Sewing machines are expensive. This is the same technique that I use for all of my skirts. It took me a little while to come up with to get the construction that I liked and the finish that I liked. So some of my earlier dolls definitely are not as polished as these are now. It took me a little while to figure out what really worked for me, and I finally found a formula. And so this is the formula that I stick with for all of them. And I really love putting my tiny little tags in. Oh gosh, they're just so cute. I highly recommend, if you're a sewist who makes things, to invest in some little tags for your projects. It's just a nice little bump of serotonin. And then I sew everything down, turn it inside out, make sure that all of these seams are aligned in the back. And then it's time for hemming. And hemming these small skirts is a little bit challenging because the amount of space that you're working with to like fit your machine foot and needle in there, you know, to get it to sew down is a little bit challenging. It took me a while to figure out exactly how to do it, and now I've got it, and it no longer is an issue for me. I just have to go slow. You have to pull out your clips very frequently. You know, you're only sewing an inch at a time usually, so. But the final product is very, very cute and perfectly hemmed. And then the next order of business is to fold down the waistband and tack that down. And to tack down these waistbands, I just use a regular old whip stitch. And I use the whip stitch for everything else too, pretty much. My hats, my boots, very, very simple. This is one of my favorite parts of sewing the skirts too. It really gives it the sense of finality, you know, that it's done, it's cute, it's over. Yeah, it just gives it a nice little air of polish. I find hand sewing like this to be very therapeutic. Most of the time when I'm doing it, it's while I'm watching YouTube videos from other creators or watching a show on TV. It's just one of those nice relaxing little things that I can do that doesn't require me to be at my art desk or my kitchen table. As you can see, that's where I'm working this past week, just because it's spacious and easier for me to spread out on. And before you tell me it looks like a little bort hole, I absolutely know. I know. So now that we're on to the next day, I'm working on making armatures here, and I use an aluminum wire. I really like this stuff. It's the only kind I buy. Can't remember the brand. If you want to know, I'll find it for you. Yeah, but it's really easy to mold, very pliable, and it suits my purposes very, very well. And I came up with my armature design on my own. It took me a few tries to figure out exactly how I should make the body. There's so many different ways of making armature bodies depending on what you're doing. And I found that my method is really easy and works consistently. So that's what I do. And I always use pliers when I'm doing this because the wire hurts my hands. So if I can save my fingertips, I'm gonna save my fingertips. It's the same process for both the top and the bottom of the armature. I do, the loop and the twist on both the legs and the arms portion, and then I just fit those together. And now it's a nice little metal guy. Another thing that I like to do for the longevity and structure of the dolls is sew a sturdy string through the waistband of the skirt, and I pull it up through the skirt and then I tie it onto the armature. That way there's no risk of the skirt falling down or being too loose. I like for the clothes to fit on the dolls very snugly because it just doesn't look good when there's gaps. I don't want any gaps. So this is just an extra step that I do to make sure that these pieces really are heirloom quality and not going to fall apart or slip or slide. And here we have a nice little tube shirt, and I just slide these on. When I sew them, I just leave the middle open. That way I can slide them onto the body pretty easily. Sometimes I have to use pliers to pull the arms through. That's pretty standard. I'll also clip the armature at this stage if the arms are too long. Sometimes that is the case, and so I'll have to clip a little bit off to make them work. I put the hands on the broom and work on the overall fit. Make sure that everything works well before I glue everything together. And I use a epoxy. It's actually technically a jewelry glue. It's E6000, I think it is. This stuff works really, really well for permanent bonds. It does take 24 hours to cure though, so I definitely need to make sure that after I glue these pieces on, I set them in a place where they're not going to get bothered and leave them until the curing is done. Now we're on to the sewing of the tiny boots. And for these, just a regular old whip stitch, fold them over. And yeah, it's pretty easy. This is another one of those therapeutic activities, along with the hats that you'll see just coming up shortly, that I will typically do while watching television, YouTube, even listening to podcasts. It's just a nice little thing that you don't have to really use your brain for, which is really nice. And it's a transportable activity. I will often go to my friend Katie's house. We have been going through the entire series of Charmed again. She has them all on DVD, so we've been watching through them, and it's absolutely hilarious. And I will bring little projects like hand sewing these little boots and hats, and she will embroider and cross stitch while we are watching TV. It's our nice little craft night. I really enjoy having those. And then after the sewing is done on the boots, I will stuff them with all of the leftover felt bits. I usually cut these down into small pieces, that way they mold to the boot a little bit easier. And I actually have a ton of little felt scraps from a bunch of projects, so I've been slowly getting through those. So making these boots is definitely nice for that, using up all that felt cabbage. And these tiny little hats, same process with the whip stitch. I'm sure you've noticed at this point, but I really like using a contrasting thread when making boots and hats. I just think that it's really charming to have those hand stitches in there that have a contrasting color to the fabric that you're sewing. I think it's just a nice, charming little detail, and I like getting to add that to my dolls. It makes them feel a little more handmade, even though they're already handmade. It's just a nice little extra touch, I find. These little hats are definitely one of my favorite things to make. They're so cute. And I whip stitch the top of the hat down to the base. And then after I finish the stitching, I cut out the middle bottom of the hat, so that way I can access further up in the hat. I leave these a whole circle just because I find it easier to sew and then cut out that hole later. So here's the start of a new day, and as you can see, I already glued the heads onto my dolls. I actually did that the night before because I wanted them to cure in time for me to do all of my finishing touches. And I was hanging out with friends while doing that, so I didn't get to record it. But here they are. So this is the day where I do all of the finishing touches, like gluing on the boots and the hats and getting everything finished up. And it's really exciting. So this step of the process involves drilling a hole in the top of each doll's head to accommodate for the eye screw that I will be putting in here to hang them. It's really imperative that you do this if you're going to be screwing anything into resin, because if you don't accommodate for the screw, your resin could potentially crack later, and you don't want that. This is my handkerchief fabric, and I absolutely love it. I had to tie the knot off screen because I had to put it in my lap and finagle it a little bit, but really cute. I absolutely love how decadent it looks. And then I just screw the eye screw in the top of the head. I use a combination of my fingers and pliers. It's a lot easier for me to get it started with my fingers and then finish it off with the pliers. For the cording, I just use this wax-coated string. It's a multi-threaded string, so it's really strong and it's pretty perfect. I always find it on sale at the craft store, so I've got tons of it. After the string is on, next comes the hat, and I poke a little hole in it so that I can fit my pliers through, and then I use my pliers to grab the cord and pull it through. It's definitely the easiest way I've discovered for threading through the felt hat. And I use hot glue to secure the hat, and don't let anybody tell you that hot glue is garbage. It's not. It is amazing. It's such a great tool to have in your arsenal. I like to use Surebonder glue sticks. I found them to be the best, and they hold up really well. They're very sturdy, and it's absolutely perfect for this particular use case. And then after I have the hat on, I just finish off the string, tie it off, and it's ready for hanging. And for the boots, I put some glue on my armature before I start. That way I know that the armature will hold to all of the felt on the inside of the boot. Putting the boots on is always so fun. They're just so adorable. Super cute. And again here I use Surebonder hot glue for securing the boots. I think it's nice to have this little plug of glue in the top. It helps the boots keep their shape and ensures that they're not going to fall out. And now that everything is done and final assembly is finished, it's time to see the final result. So let's go to the reveal. Now we have officially finished up this week of doll making, and I'm really thrilled with everything that I managed to achieve this week. And getting these 3 dolls finished means that I will be ready for my first market in December. I still have 3 more of these to make, but I have most of the components done. All that I really have to do is make the skirts and do the assembly, and yeah, I'll be ready to go. Look at these gals. Oh my gosh, they're so cute. Cannot wait to get them on my market table and get them into some new homes. I really love everything about these. I'm so happy with how they came out. I think that they are absolutely perfect. And I really hope that you enjoyed coming along with me and seeing my process for making these dolls. They're just really cute. It's so small. Perfection, perfection. So if you want a doll of your own and you happen to be a Montreal or Quebec in general local, I have 2 markets coming up, and I will put the information in the description of this video. So if you want to come see me and buy a doll for yourself, you'll have the information to do so. And I really hope to see you there. I really enjoy doing markets, and it's really fun meeting people and getting to know the people who are adopting these dolls, who are going to have them in their homes. It's just really nice. It's an extra special connection, and I really like it a lot. So thank you for joining me on this past week's studio vlog. I'm really thrilled that you're here with me and that you watched to the end. If you could comment on this video, like this video, subscribe, do all the things to help my channel grow, I would be eternally grateful. Absolutely. Thank you so much. Toodaloo, pals. Bye!